everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Sid Says. It's called that because I'm Sid and I'm saying things to you. Oh boy, did that Dracula video take a lot out of me. So, for this month, I was thinking we could do something a little bit more casual, and I'm just gonna do a review and reaction video. And my cat's being really loud. Stop it, Stinky. That's right. Anyway, so yeah, today we're going to be reacting to Beetlejuice, aka Beetlejuice 2. Now, I've heard a lot of things about this movie. I've heard some people say that it's really great, that it captured the magic of the original really well, and that it's a lot of fun. And then I've heard other people say that it's so bad that it made them walk out of the theater. So, this will be interesting. I'm going into this basically completely blind. I know a little bit about the plot. Lydia's there, and she's got a daughter now, and Delia's there, and Beetlejuice is there. And yeah, basically that's it. That's all I know. They're just back in the house, and they're doing stuff. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Except we're not going to jump into it just yet, because I need to tell you something else first. Hi, it's me, Sid from the future, and I'm here to tell you what happens in the plot of the story because I don't think that I can show you 1 second of footage from this film without my YouTube channel being copyright stricken to death. Also, please don't mind, well, first of all, the sirens. Don't know if you can hear that. And also, don't mind the huge mess behind me. I'm in the middle of packing because I'm going to be moving next week. Alright, so with that, now let's get into it. So the story starts with some honestly pretty banger music. So as the opening title credits roll, I realized that Willem Dafoe is in this movie. I didn't know he was in this. What the fuck? Alright. So as the camera zooms through the streets of the town, it slowly morphs and we start to realize it's a model, much like the opening of the original movie. However, instead of transforming into the Maitland house that we know, it does transform into the Maitland house in the model, but then it, does another weird transition to Lydia giving this opening kind of speech, because now, in modern times, she is the host of her own kind of, Ghost Adventures type talk show. Oh, I already hate this. But after some cringe jokes are told, basically what happens is that Lydia looks out into her studio audience and she sees Beetlejuice, and it freaks her out and she has a panic attack, and so she runs into the bathroom and starts taking pills until, I'm guessing it's her manager, her manager slash boyfriend, which doesn't seem like a good idea, kind of runs in and snatches the pills from her and throws them away before they take the pills back out of the trash again, but whatever. Also hate the narrative of being medicated being a bad thing. I hate that shit. So at this point we're about I don't know, maybe 2 minutes into the film, and I'm already not loving it. I'm trying not to shit on this movie so early. But this feels so cliche and so badly done and just so out of character for everything already. But I'm gonna keep an open mind. But then Lydia gets a ton of text messages from Delia saying that it's an emergency and she needs to meet up with her right now. So Lydia runs off to go see Delia. And Delia now has this big art exhibit in New York City. And honestly, all of this is really on brand for her. I don't mind this part of the film. When Lydia arrives, Delia tells her what the emergency is, which is basically that Lydia's father, Charles, has died. And I'm not sure how to say this. They show his death, but they show it using stop motion animation. But here's my issue with it. One, it looks disgusting. I don't like this either. What the fuck is this? Ew. And two, I'm not even sure if it actually is stop motion animation. It looks so bad and fucked up. I literally cannot tell if it's actually stop motion or if it's like CGI that's supposed to look like stop motion. It's bad. I do get why they did it though, because you know the actor that played Charles, but anyway, in the scene where Charles dies, we find out that he was in a plane crash, but that didn't kill him. It's because it landed in the ocean, but he didn't drown to death. He got his whole upper body chomped off by a shark, so he's dead now. Jesus, that's a lot of blood. I wasn't expecting that. And once again, we're only about 5 minutes into this film now, but there is just something really off about the vibe of everything. Two, the humor is just like, I can't even explain what's wrong with it. It's just wrong. The comedy of that whole scene fell incredibly flat. I did not enjoy that at all. But then we get our first death of the film, or I guess second death of the film. I'm not really counting Charles because he was technically already dead. We get our first on-screen within the timeline death because one of Delia's artists that's like working at her exhibitor ever falls down a manhole and he dies. That guy's dead. And when he wakes up, he's in the netherworld, so we get to see that for the first time too. And here is where we meet the janitor character, who I'm guessing is not the same janitor character as from the first film, but another one. And he's played by Danny DeVito, yet another character I did not realize was going to be in this movie. But then we follow the janitor guy, and then he says something about, damn foreigners. Did you just say something about foreigners? But we're just gonna ignore that for now. There'll be more egregious stuff later. Janitor Danny DeVito keeps up his janitor job and he's like cleaning in this restricted access area or something. And I'm not 100% sure how this happens, and I don't care to rewatch the film to find out why, but like his like automatic floor buffer or whatever those things are called short circuits and it electrocutes him and it like throws him across the room. And I guess it's supposed to be funny. See, like, I feel like if it was just like in a different way, seeing Danny DeVito get absolutely launched across the room would have been really funny. Like, Always Sunny's done it a million times, but in this there's just something off, man. There's something off with it. And while all that is happening, this crate gets knocked off a shelf, and it's full of body parts that do like this, honestly, a little bit too long montage where it staples itself back together, and it turns out it's this sexy lady. And I also wish that they made her a little bit more gruesome looking. She's looking a little too, like, sexy monster. Like, I want her to look disgusting. Anyway, after the sexy lady finishes stapling herself together, Danny DeVito janitor is like, "You can't be back here. You gotta leave. This is a restricted area." And then she proceeds to suck his soul out, which doesn't make sense. How do you suck a soul out of a ghost? Their whole thing is soul. And then the story moves to Astrid, Lydia's daughter. So her and Astrid are estranged. They're on bad terms. They've got a bad relationship. And it's because, like, Astrid thinks that her mom is, like, uncool and she gets bullied for having a mom that, like, sees ghosts or whatever. Oh, and of course, her father is dead. And of course, he was just a saintly, do-no-wrong figure. So that's just another cliche. Add it to the list. So anyway, Lydia and Delia go to the school to pick up Astrid because, you know, they need to go to Charles's funeral, plan it, whatever. And while they're at the school, Lydia sees Beetlejuice yet again and freaks out. And then Astrid's like, "Mom, you're embarrassing me. All the ghost stuff makes us look like freaks." Ugh. I'm sure there's some kids out there who definitely would hate it if their mom was like a ghosty woman. Personally, I just can't, like, imagine a reality where that's true. I feel like if your mom was a famous fucking ghost hunting psychic person, you'd be like the coolest person in school. And then the story switches to yet another character, Beetlejuice. He's like running his own business now, I guess. And he's hired a bunch of shrunken head guys. I'm wondering, like, why are they all the shrunken head guy? I would have liked to see some variation in the people working for Beetlejuice, but I feel like they were just so preoccupied with like filling it with recognizable visuals that were like, let's make them all the shrunken head guy, even though it doesn't make sense. But Beetlejuice gets called in to talk with this kind of like ghost detective guy. This is Willem Dafoe, by the way. Willem Dafoe's the ghost detective. Um, and he's there to basically ask Beetlejuice what he knows about the sexy lady. But before we can actually find out anything going on with that, we switch back over to Charles's funeral, which for some reason they chose to portray an actual picture of the actor who shall not be named. I really didn't need to see this picture of him. I feel like they should have just left out any real life depictions of this actor from this film. But getting back to the actual plot, the drama with Astrid and Lydia is that Astrid is mad at Lydia because apparently Lydia can see ghosts, but the one ghost she can't see is Astrid's dead father. And so Astrid's like disillusioned and hates her mom and thinks the ghost shit is all just fake and bullshit. And here are my thoughts on that. I just literally can't bring myself to give a shit about their mother daughter relationship turmoil right now. It's just so generic. So generic. Lydia deserves better than this as a character. But then we switch course again, and now we're back in the netherworld where we finally see Charles's ghost form, which is honestly pretty awesome. It's like he's like bitten off, like crescent moon shaped, you know, where the shark like bit his head off. So I actually really like that effect. I think it's really cool. But he does go into a laundromat with a character with an over exaggerated, some sort of East Asian accent. You know, it doesn't matter. It's just supposed to be haha funny, his accent, right? So, another one for the books. Tim Burton, strike two for this movie. Charles leaves, and the laundromat guy is there alone, and he gets sucked up by the ghost lady again. And after Ghost Lady, I guess, kills this guy, I'm honestly not even sure what happens to the people whose souls she sucks up. Not only does that not make sense, spoiler, they never even explain why she has that ability or what happens to the people whose souls she sucked up. Like, they don't explain shit in this film. They introduce so much new lore and they don't do anything with it. This is gonna be a reoccurring theme, so just put that in your hat for later. But after she kills that guy, what she does next is that she steals a wedding dress. Okay, of course she's a woman that's obsessed with Beetlejuice and the fact that she wants to marry him. Of course, because she's putting on a goddamn wedding dress. Oh my god. Tim Burton, can you stop hating women for 5 seconds, please? Thank you. But now we're back with Beetlejuice again, and now he's finally going to explain what the backstory is with this ghost lady. And for some reason, he does it all in Spanish. What is happening right now? But the gist of the story is that him and the ghost lady, whose name is Dolores, she and him, they were married when they were humans. That's right. Beetlejuice used to be a regular human guy. I don't like the idea of Beetlejuice being a human at some point. I don't like that idea. But anyway, they were married. They were both like occultists or something. Her especially. She was apparently part of like some sort of death cult. And they killed each other. She killed him by giving him poison, and he killed her by chopping her up into a bunch of little pieces, which is why she had to staple herself back together again, I guess. But after that whole fever dream of a goddamn sequence, we're at Charles's wake, and there's this really unnecessary and unfunny interaction where this one, I don't know even who she is. I think she's like a realtor or something. She swings by, and I guess she has like an adopted daughter or something who is Asian, and they make a joke about how her name is funny. Good to see Tim Burton's racism is alive and well. Strike two, Timmy boy. Fuck you. But then Rory proposes to Lydia in front of everybody, and I think it's supposed to be funny. I really hope this movie makes me genuinely laugh at some point. I want to feel. But after some coercing, Lydia finally agrees and says yes, and then Astrid gets pissed off and storms off on a conveniently located bike that's there for some reason. But while Astrid is riding through town, she like almost gets hit by a car and starts swerving, and then almost gets hit by like another car and almost crashes into people. And at no point during any of this does she ever think to, I don't know, hit the brakes maybe. She goes crashing through this fence, and then she meets a cute boy. Ooh. And then we cut back to the house again, and I didn't say this before, but the whole house has been covered in this black, like, funeral shroud, and I was like, for sure they're gonna do something with this. They're gonna do something with this shroud later, I don't know what. And spoiler alert, they never do, but remember that thing I said about how this movie never follows through on anything it sets up? Well, you can take that out of your hat and you can put it back in again because you're going to be taking it out a lot. Better hang on to that card. And then Astrid, I guess, just wants to start fights, and she's like, well, if ghosts are real, where are the Maitlands, Mom? You said that the Maitlands were here in this house. And Lydia gives some vague-ass answer about how they're not here anymore. And Astrid's like, well, isn't that convenient? And I'm like, yeah, it is, isn't it? I know logistically wise, like, why the Maitlands are in this film. But, like, God, I wish they were. I love the Maitlands. I miss the Maitlands. I wish the Maitlands were here. Save me, Maitlands. Maitlands, save me. But Astrid goes up to the attic where the Maitlands supposedly used to dwell, and she finds the old model of the town that Adam built. Gotta get those cool shots for the trailer that make the movie look so much cooler than it actually is. And she also finds two other things: a Beetlejuice advertisement and an old family album with photos of her, Lydia, and the dead dad. But Lydia and Astrid have a bit of a bonding moment because Astrid's like, can I keep the photo album? And Lydia's like, yeah, for sure. And then Astrid's like, I also found this weird advertisement for Beetlejuice. And Lydia's like, don't say that name. And she's like, Beetlejuice? And she's like, don't say that name! And she has like a fucking freak out. And then Astrid's like, you're fucking crazy. And then like the moment's ruined or whatever. And at this point, I was so bored out of my mind by nothing fucking happening in this movie that I decided to check how much time I had left. How far are we into this? We are 40 goddamn minutes into this 1 hour and 45-minute film, and I feel like absolutely jack shit has happened. I feel like nothing has happened. But Lydia starts having a panic attack, and she goes and finds Delia, and they have some unfunny dialogue exchanges. And Lydia tells her that Beetlejuice is back, and Delia doesn't care for some reason. Are you telling me Delia wouldn't give a shit about Beetlejuice probably coming back? She'd probably be more fucking freaked out than Lydia was. But now we're back to following up on Astrid and her lover boy's storyline. His name is Jeremy, by the way. And, like, they go to his house, and he said something earlier about how his parents, like, never notice anything and how they're kind of, like, there but not there. And, like, they show this by, you know, them walking by the parents and them kind of, like, barely acknowledging and not even turning towards the camera. And then they both go up to Jeremy's room, where Astrid finds the handbook for the recently deceased. Why does he have that? And then they proceed to have a boring fucking conversation that I don't give a shit about. I could not give less of a shit about this romance plot. I don't give a shit. I don't care. But now the juice is loose, I guess, and he starts tormenting Lydia. He starts making, like, advertisements for him pop up on her cell phone. Honestly, this is an update I can get behind. He absolutely would do that. And then she runs up to the attic to, you know, scream at the model and be like, leave me alone, I'm done with you. And Rory is there, and he's all like, Lydia, you're having a mental breakdown, okay? Let's take deep breaths. This man is so insufferable and so cartoonishly, like, broadcasted as gonna be a bad guy in this film that I don't believe for a second Lydia would ever fall for his fucking bullshit. And of course he doesn't believe her, so then he summons Beetlejuice. And after he does that, Lydia and him are shrunken down and transported to the model like Barbara and Adam were in the original film. And Beetlejuice fucks with them in a way that I can't really describe it. I say this a lot in my review, but there's something just like off about it where like it's like almost there, but it's not quite. Like one of the things he does to Lydia is like makes her get fake pregnant and give birth to like a Beetlejuice baby, which just feels so like over the line and weird. I literally can't even articulate like why it just all feels so wrong. And then Lydia's finally able to say, the home thing, and they get out of there. But after that whole ordeal, Lydia's like, Delia, Astrid, pack up your shit. We're getting the hell out of here. We gotta go. We gotta leave. But then Astrid's like, no, we can't leave now. I have plans with a boy tomorrow. Tomorrow's Halloween, by the way. And Rory and Lydia are also getting married on Halloween at midnight. I don't fucking care. Oh, I see. The whole subplot with the boy that I don't give a shit about is just so that they have a reason to stay and not just leave immediately when Beetlejuice shows up. Alright, I'll let it slide, I guess. And because they decide to stay, Lydia and Delia decide to, I guess, try to trap Beetlejuice by boarding up the attic door. On what fucking planet would Lydia think that would work? Like, Delia I get, because Delia's a fucking idiot, and I love her for that. But Lydia would be like, this shit's not gonna fucking work, Delia. Are you fucking stupid? The next night, Lydia drops off Astrid at Jeremy's house, but at this point, Jeremy is starting to act shady, and I do feel a little bit bad about not realizing this sooner, but, it's very, like, heavily foreshadowed that he's probably a ghost. He's got the parents that are just kind of in the background whose faces we don't see, and he's got the handbook for the recently deceased. I am going to cut myself some slack here because this movie is so bad, I was really just checked out and not invested in, foreshadowing and things like that. But at this point, I'm not suspecting him of being a ghost. I'm suspecting him of being Beetlejuice. And I'm like theorizing about this and shit. But then Jeremy and Astrid kiss, and I do a complete 180. I feel like we are, because we didn't see his parents' faces, and I feel like we're gonna find out that they're just like puppets that Beetlejuice made, and like this guy's I really hope we don't find out that he's Beetlejuice now. Never mind. And to my relief, I find out that I'm wrong. Jeremy is not Beetlejuice. Thank God. He's just a ghost kid. He then proceeds to tell Astrid how he died, which was basically that he fell out of his treehouse in the backyard, which is where they originally met, and he broke his neck, and that's how he died. And he says that he's only able to go out to the treehouse. He can't walk past that. But this is like bringing up some lore issues for me. I know that he died outside, but so did the Maitlands. I feel like the rules established by the first movie would dictate that he couldn't leave his house. I hate how much this movie is contradicting the first one. But at this point, I'm starting to realize that this movie has 4 goddamn antagonists in it, and that it's been forever since we've seen Dolores. This movie already has too many antagonists, and it's been like at least 20 minutes since we saw the lady, like who was supposed to be, I guess, the big bad of this movie. This movie's got way too much shit going on. It's so jumbled. Oh boy. But then we're back with Delia, and she's also all dressed up for Halloween in a, let's just say, culturally perhaps insensitive costume. Oh, she would be Cleopatra. But her whole thing is that for Halloween, she's got these 2 snakes, and she's gonna do like a Cleopatra ritual over Charles's grave or something like that. I know Delia's eccentric, but like I feel like she was like a realist eccentric. I feel like she wouldn't be into the woo-woo stuff, even if it was proved to be real. I don't feel like she would be like, I'm gonna go commune with my husband's spirit. I think she'd be like, he's dead, whatever. But then Lydia's talking with, I think she's a realtor. I literally have no idea who the fuck this character is, but Lydia's talking to her, and I don't even know how they get on the subject, but they start talking about Jeremy, and the realtor is like, oh yeah, Jeremy, he died like 20 years ago. And do you know what happened? He murdered both his parents, and then he tried to climb his treehouse to escape the cops, but then he fell out and broke his neck. So yeah, Jeremy's a bad guy. Oh no, who knew? Who saw that one coming? Four goddamn antagonists. Four antagonists in this movie. That's way too many goddamn antagonists. But anyway, Lydia starts speeding over to Jeremy's house so that she can save Astrid, because at the same time this is happening, Jeremy is making Astrid read out this incantation so that they can go to the netherworld together. He's basically tricking her by telling her that she needs to read it in order to go to the netherworld, and she wants to go there because she wants to see her dad again. But what we later find out is that the incantation is actually so Jeremy can, I guess, swap places with her, so now she's dead and he'll be alive again. But by the time Lydia gets there, it's too late. Astrid has already read the incantation and they've already gone to the netherworld, and so she can't follow them. So, of course, what she has to do. Okay, now she's gonna have to summon Beetlejuice to help her get her daughter back or whatever. And they're gonna have to work together. But we're back with Delia, and Delia's doing her little snake ritual over Charles's grave, and it turns out the two snakes that she got, which she said were not venomous, turned out to be venomous, and they bite her, and she dies. But just like I predicted, Lydia goes back home, and what does she do? She summons Beetlejuice. And they've been talking this whole movie about how Beetlejuice is still like obsessed with Lydia and I guess like in love with her, maybe, I guess. And so in exchange for helping her, he's like, you have to marry me. And she's like, sure, fine, whatever it takes to save my daughter. And so she like signs this contract or whatever. But this once again brings up some lore issues for me. Wait, I just remembered something. Perhaps I'm misremembering, but in the first movie, wasn't the only way for a ghost to become human again was to marry a living person, right? That's why Beetlejuice wanted to marry Lydia. In addition to just being a creep that was attracted to a child. But they're changing the lore again. Like, maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe I'm misremembering. But wasn't that the only way? And now they're saying you can just do it with a fucking incantation? And the lore issues don't stop because the next scene is Delia waking up in the afterlife and she's just like already in the waiting room. Why is she auto showing up in the wait room? Shouldn't she be at her place of dwelling? But now we're back with Jeremy and Astrid. Jesus Christ, there's so many characters. There's so much going on in this movie. Anyway, we're back with Astrid and Jeremy finally spills the beans. Like, he's like, oh, we're swapping places. Now you're gonna be dead and I'm gonna be alive again. And so, like, they stamp her passport or whatever at customs, and they drag her off to something called the Soul Train. They've been talking about it a little bit before now, but, like, apparently it's, like, the one-way ticket to the afterlife. And Jeremy's like, bye-bye. But at this point, it's been about, I want to say like maybe 40 minutes since we've last seen Dolores, which is crazy because in all the trailers that I saw for this film, she was in them a lot. She was like set up to be the big bad of this movie, and yet she hasn't been in it for like half of it. Where the fuck is the ghost lady? But anyway, rant over. Astrid is getting dragged away by these, like, frozen to death Soviet soldiers, which I really like their costumes. But while she's getting dragged away, who else is at customs working the clerk's table other than her father, who I guess died getting eaten by piranhas or something because he's got, like, piranhas all over him. He's got a fish on his nipple. And I once again realized the unfair standards of how dead guys look versus dead ladies look in these films. I'm going to chalk it up to Tim Burton's sexism. But yeah, he gets to be all cool, covered in piranhas. Delia should have two snakes sticking out of her neck for the rest of eternity. But no, instead she looks completely fine. And she has like two barely noticeable puncture marks in her neck. Let's get one thing straight. I want a fucked up woman. I want a nasty woman. Give me that, and I'll be happy. But then we arrive at the Soul Train, and, we start to hear some disco music playing, and I get this sinking feeling in my gut. Oh no. I feel like something really bad is about to happen, race-wise. Yeah, this scene. This scene. Boy, oh boy, Does it feel in poor taste? Let's look on the bright side. At least this is the most black people that have ever been in a Tim Burton film. And I feel like I shouldn't have to verbalize what's wrong with that. Strike four, Tim Burton, strike four. Anyway, Lydia shows up in the afterlife and basically gets Astrid off the train at the very last second so that she doesn't, go to the land of the departed or whatever. And so they run out this exit door, and it's all just like very simple. That was easy. But they get out of there, and of course, they're in like, I don't know what to call this place. I don't know if they gave it a name in the original movie, but kind of like the wasteland area that happens when like you leave a part you're not supposed to be. Like the dunes with the sandworm. And the sandworm is there. Gotta play the hits, gotta play the hits. Was it give me that sandworm? But before Astrid and Lydia can get eaten, the dead dad comes to the rescue and gets them out of there. And then they have this kind of incredibly poorly placed kind of reunion scene. You know what I really needed after that sandworm attack? Just the slowest, quietest scene ever. That really keeps the momentum going. This movie's so well paced. And you know how Astrid has been bitching and moaning about her dad this whole movie, and it's like the main conflict between her and Lydia stems from the death of the father and everything like that. So you would think, like the dad would be in the rest of this movie. But he's not. This is the last time we see him. Fuck that guy. Get the hell out of here. Go ahead, take that card out of your hat. Just give it a quick little kiss and put it back in. Because there we go again. Here we are again. Once again, getting to a plot point that just gets thrown out of the fucking window. Who gives a shit about that one, am I right? Who gives a shit about writing a good story? This is Beetlejuice 2, baby! We're having fun! Also, you're probably wondering where Beetlejuice is at this point because he did take Lydia to the netherworld, but then they split up. And I shit you not, the reason why they split up is because he had to go to the bathroom. Grade A writing there, guys. Great job. I'm so glad that you're the professionals here. Great stuff, guys. Yes, thumbs up. But then we're back with Delia, and Delia's, like giving the whole let me speak to the manager thing, which this is like the most in character she's ever been this whole movie. And then she, breaks down and is all like, I can't handle this. I need help. And so she summons Beetlejuice. And Beetlejuice is like, yeah, what's up? What do you need? And Delia's like, well, first of all, I need to make it to Lydia's wedding because that's important to me for some reason. And also, I would also not like to be in the waiting room for the rest of eternity. I want to go someplace nice. And he's like, all right, sure, I can do that. Which is like so weird to me, right? Why is Beetlejuice like actually legit helping them? I know it's because Lydia was like, I'm gonna marry you, but like, isn't his whole thing like promising stuff and then just being a huge shithead and not actually doing what the people want? Or like doing some kind of monkey's paw situation. But he's like legitimately helping them. It's kind of insane. But everybody makes it back to the land of the living just in time to attend Lydia and Rory's wedding. But, obviously Beetlejuice is there and he doesn't want them to get married because he wants to marry Lydia. So he injects Rory with like a truth serum. And of course, oh no, plot twist. Turns out Rory was a bad guy and he just wanted to marry Lydia for her money. Who would have saw that one coming? And Lydia is like, oh my god, I can't believe it. Which is like, what? Why'd they make Lydia the dumbest person alive in this movie? It pisses me off. And then comes my least favorite sequence in this entire movie, where Beetlejuice is like, in the process of getting married to Lydia. And I'm guessing this is supposed to be this movie's version of like the Banana Boat song from the original. But it falls so short of that. First of all, it's incredibly long. It's incredibly boring. And it's not funny in the slightest. In the slightest. And when I say it's long, It's insanely long. I want to say like maybe the Banana Boat song in the original film maybe was maybe 1 minute long, maybe two. This one, they like sing a whole, I want to say 6 or 7 minute long song. And this sequence goes on for so goddamn long. I have just so much shit to say about it. I just keep roasting it over and over again. Go take a look. Why do they think this is fun? Michael Keaton just lip syncing. Not great. This scene wants to be the Banana Boat song so bad. They were like, what if we made the Banana Boat song and made it suck really bad? So after that just grueling, grueling scene, the cops finally show up. The ghost cops show up to be like, Beetlejuice, you're under arrest for doing ghost crimes. And then he tells them to freeze, and they all just freeze solid, which is... How powerful is he? That seems a little OP. But also, finally, Jesus fucking Christ, it's been like 50 minutes at this point. Dolores is finally back in the narrative. Oh, there's the fucking ghost lady. But Astrid basically uses the Book of the Recently Deceased to open a door for the sandworm to come in through. And instead of, having the usual freaked out reaction to it based on what happened to him in the last movie, Beetlejuice instead starts doing like this, like bull routine with it, with like the red cape and stuff. I feel like it should be fun. What is even happening anymore? I feel like I should be having fun. But anyway, he's able to guide the worm so that it attacks Dolores and Rory, and they literally just fucking stand there until they get eaten by it. Is this a climax? Because this is so anticlimactic. They set up Dolores as like this big bad bitch, and yet she's defeated so easily. She fucking just stands there and dies again. So yeah, I guess all the antagonists other than Beetlejuice have been defeated at this point. And Beetlejuice is like, you still gotta marry me, Lydia. But then Astrid is like, no, she doesn't, because you're a criminal, and that voids the contract. And that just ends up being true, and now the contract's voided. And so Lydia starts saying Beetlejuice's name 3 times, to make him disappear again. And for some reason, even though he's totally been able to stop people from saying his name before, he just lets it happen now. And then he turns into like a balloon, and then he pops and explodes, and it's over. Yep. Anyway, the resolution of this shit fiesta of a film finally comes with Lydia basically telling all of her ghost fans. Remember that? Yep, she was a Ghost Adventures girly at the beginning of this. Remember that? That didn't fucking matter. But she's telling all of them that she's shutting down her show because she's gonna prioritize spending time with her family and stuff. And then we get this very slow, boring montage of like, her life playing out. Why does this movie refuse to end? And then she's in like a hospital bed giving birth to a baby. Anyway, instead of giving birth to a normal, regular baby, Astrid ends up giving birth to the shitty Beetlejuice baby from earlier in the film. And it like kills everybody or whatever. I don't fucking care, man. And yeah, this all turns out to be a nightmare, and then that's how the story ends. Alright, so final thoughts on this film. Did I like it? No. Would I recommend you watch it? No. What would I rate it? Probably generously, like a 2 out of 5. Even that feels a little generous. Let's say 1.5. That's as generous as I'm willing to be with this film. This film is bad. The most I can say about it is that the costumes and the visuals are really good. Other than that, this movie is just so poorly put together. There's way too much happening, and at the same time, there's not enough happening. There's so much that is set up that is either not paid off at all, or is paid off very anticlimactically and in a non-satisfying way. I feel like this film was trying too hard to be the original Beetlejuice, and because of that, that's where it ultimately failed. The original Beetlejuice, I feel like, was a lightning in a bottle sensation. Nothing about that film should have worked, and yet it did. And by trying to recapture that, that's where I feel like this film failed. I wish that it had tried harder to be its own thing. Like the Beetlejuice musical. Obviously, there's still a lot about Beetlejuice in that musical that is really good, but where it ultimately succeeds is that it really took being its own thing and ran with it, and that's why it works for me. This film was just, it was trying to be formulaic about something that was never formulaic to begin with. But of course, these are all just my own opinions on this film. If you liked it, I'm happy that you found something that you can enjoy. But why don't you tell me what you thought? Do you agree with my analysis? Do you agree that this was a bad movie and that it just didn't capture the thoughts of the original? Or do you think that this was actually a great movie and that you thought that it did really, really well? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like what I do here, please, please, please give me a subscribe. I would really appreciate it. I've also got links to my various social medias listed in the description below, so go ahead and give me a follow. And if you really like what I do here and you want to support me, I also have a link to a Buy Me a Coffee. You can give me any amount of money you want, even if it's like 50 cents. I honestly don't even know if they let you do less than $1, but if they do, go ahead, just give me 1 penny. It won't matter. I'll give you a shout out at the end of my next video. Well, guys, that's all I've got for you for this video, so go ahead, make sure you give me a follow, make sure you give me a like, put a comment in the comments below, check out my description, I don't know, share it around, do whatever you want, have a good time, and don't even worry about it. Bye!